Daddy, I found 2 old Megazords in the attic. Can I please play with them? Said my 5-year-old son, Jordan. In his left hand, he held a robot figure holding a pair of blasters. The robot was black, had small arms, box-shaped and very wide. Its legs were green and vaguely resembled fire trucks. The figure's left foot was a black robotic bull's head, and its right foot was a green robotic rhinoceros's head. In his right hand, he held another robot figure holding a chrome sword and a white shield. This one was mostly yellow at the top half of the body, with golden chrome shoulders. There was a lion's head on the chest, with 2 cannons on the back of the figure. The head and back was red, and there was a V-shaped crest on the forehead. I lost the instructions and the original packaging of the toys decades ago, but I still remembered their names, as well as how they all transformed and combined. They were the Live Boxer and Live Robo from a long-forgotten TV show from my childhood, Liveman. The components of Live Boxer were 2 truck animal hybrids, Bison Liner and Rhino Fire. Bison Liner was mostly black while Rhino Fire was green and white. The components for Live Robo was a red bird resembling a fighter jet called Jet Falcon, a lion with 2 cannons on its back called Land Lion, and 2 dolphins merged resembling submarines called Aqua Dolphin. Both Live Robo and Live Boxer could combine with each other to form Super Live Robo. In this combination, the torso of a Live Boxer became boots for Live Robo. The truck legs become new armor attachments for the arms. The heads of Bison Liner and Rhino Fire became shoulder pads, and Live Robo gets a new battle helmet. I'm surprised how good the condition of these toys were for their age. Nothing was broken or missing, and they looked as if they were just taken out of the packaging brand new. I got them when I was 8 years old, and I was a big Transformers fan at the time. My grandparents bought me Live Robo and Live Boxer at a small toy shop not too far from where I lived when they visited my family in the spring. I told Jordan to be careful with them because of how old they were. I helped him transform and combine the 2 robots, and I had a lot of fun sharing a part of my childhood with Jordan. After about an hour of playing, my wife cooked us lunch and I put the 2 Megazords on the top of my dresser. There is an immensely popular ongoing franchise in Japan called Super Sentai, with each season being a soft reboot in its own story. It tells the story of 3 to 12 humans using a device to become a team of multicolored rangers to protect the world from various villains with monsters of the weak plots. The monster would become a giant at the end of each episode, as the rangers fight it with massive vehicles or robotic animals that combined into a super robot. This may have you thinking about Power Rangers, but Power Rangers is the Western adaptation of Super Sentai, and heavily relies on used Sentai footage, while blending it in with some original scenes. Power Rangers also first aired in 1993, while Super Sentai had been airing since 1975. It is also worth pointing out that Super Live Robo is the first Megazord combination, using 2 Megazords as the components. This is something that would become a staple to both Super Sentai and Power Rangers. And all of these types of combinations, Max Victory Robo, or Lightspeed Solarzord from Kuzuku Sentai, or Go-Go 5 Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue is my personal favorite. The earliest Western adaptation of Super Sentai, however, was in 1988. This was a dubbed parody of Kagaku Sentai Dynaman, simply titled Dynaman. It was very obscure, and there were only 6 episodes aired on the US cable network. In 1992, there was a second Western adaptation of Super Sentai. That was an English dub of Koujou Sentai Liveman that was titled just as Liveman. The show only aired locally in my area when I lived in Kentucky, and the company that produced this adaptation was called Tazavong Entertainment. This company was short-lived and produced only 4 children's shows, including Liveman that only aired on a local TV station in the county that I lived in. The company lasted from 1990 to 1992 and went out of business for unknown reasons. Looking back, I remember the show for having a lot of dark and disturbing moments. I remember an episode of a monster tearing through a man's flesh and crushing his bones. The scene was immensely gory for a children's show. The poor man was screaming for help, and when the Rangers ran into the scene to save him, the monster killed him by crushing his skull. The man's brain exploded blood and his eye sockets burst out of his head. In another episode, during this segment with the mecha fight, the live robo tossed the monster and it landed right by a small house. As the monster got up, he started to destroy the house. A father and a young girl escaped, but they watched in terror while the mother was trapped inside. The camera cut to the mother screaming as the house was getting destroyed, and debris crushed her in the process. When the monster was defeated, the family went to look for the mother in the rubble and they found her dead. The two of them began mourning for the mother. Either the young girl was super talented, or the director told her that her mother was really dead, and that she will never be able to see her again. But her screams and crying sounded so real, much like the little girl grieving for the loss of her mother in the original 1954 Godzilla film. In another episode, it started with a mecha fight in the city using Light Boxer. As it battled a giant monster, the monster began to ooze a blue fluid all over its body, presumably blood. Live Boxer then grabbed the monster by its feet and then spun it around. While this happened, the fluid splattered on nearby buildings and it slowly killed people who got in contact with it. There was even a puppy that had drowned in this fluid. And then there was a story arc of a psychic child who kept horrific nightmares involving the show's main antagonist, the armed brain Army Volt. During catastrophic damage to cities and killings innocent people that always became true. In these nightmares, there would be scenes of toxic chemicals being sprayed into towns and it would show people, including children, not only die but melt to bones. In other nightmares, monsters would go on a rampage, killing civilians in the most brutal ways possible. There was even a scene where a mother and her child tried to run away and were decapitated by a monster. The Liveman used this child's nightmares to predict when and how the armed brainy Army Volt would strike next. After 35 episodes, the show was cancelled, while the Japanese version had about 50 episodes. I remember some kids in my school being very disappointed when the TV show got cancelled. But when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers hit the scene, the show completely disappeared into obscurity. The very few people in school that still remembered Liveman noticed the similarities between the two shows right away, calling Power Rangers a ripoff with a higher budget. This was long before the internet became advanced, so they had no idea what Super Sentai is, and how Koujou Sentai Liveman and Kuroru Sentai Zyuranger, the show the original Power Rangers is loosely based on, were both part of the same franchise. I had no idea what Super Sentai was either until many years later. When I first heard about Liveman getting cancelled, I remember being disappointed. When I was a child, nobody ever told me about the show being linked to the mysterious deaths of young women in my town. I was quickly able to move on to other things. and when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came onto the scene, I was instantly hooked, collecting all the deluxe Zords as the years went by. When I was little, I would have the Liveman Megazords either fight or team up with the different Megazords I had in my collection. I still have all the Megazords I collected over the years, and still add Megazords to my collection to this day. However, when Bandai stopped importing the Japanese molds for the Zords and made cheaper watered-down versions instead, I boycotted them and only bought the DX Sentai versions. Later in life, I decided to do research on the dubbed version of Liveman, and what I found was really interesting. Juan Savang, the owner of Savang Entertainment, had a contract with Toei, the company behind Super Sentai, and all the other franchises like Kamen Rider and various anime, to release an English dub of Koujou Sentai Liveman. Juan also wanted the show to be dark and aimed for teenagers. Many of the 80s Sentai seasons already had a somewhat dark and gritty tone, but Juan wanted there to be more of an edge, hoping to appeal more to Western audiences. In response, Toei gave him access to deleted scenes from the show that were considered too dark and violent for Japanese TV shows, and it allowed his company to incorporate them into the English translation. Savang Entertainment had a very low budget, which is why they would only air the TV show within the county they were located in. About 2 weeks after the company went out of business, Juan met a man named Haim Saban. Like Juan, Haim was a fan of Super Sentai and wanted to make an adaptation of the show into the US. His company had a much higher production than Savang Entertainment, and Juan informed Toei about Haim Saban and his company immediately. Saban was hoping to adapt Koujou Sentai Jetman into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but due to the dinosaur craze of 1993, thanks to Jurassic Park and Land Before Time, Saban decided to adapt Koyoru Sentai Zyuranger instead, and we all know how that turned out. As for Juan, he was the former chief of police in the county that I lived in, and used his experience to get a job with the FBI. In 1996, he was in a very high ranking with the FBI, and founded a mysterious agency called Black Mercury. All that is known about Black Mercury is that they investigate and sometimes cover up anomalies from around the world, and even outer space that are potentially life-threatening. They occasionally work with, and in some ways are similar with, the SCP Foundation. However, unlike the SCP Foundation, Black Mercury focuses much more on studying the anomaly, and sometimes they would contain the anomaly temporarily for further research and experiments. After that, they either release the anomaly or send it to the SCP Foundation. Black Mercury hopes to use the anomalies as weapons or even torturing devices for the US government. Those people most likely know about the alleged Viper Man in the New York subway tunnels, and what happened to the first search team that went missing. Somebody once uploaded information about it on a Reddit simply titled, "The Viper Man." I have an online friend on Steam that likes to collect action figures and claimed to have bought an unreleased toy on eBay from the Ultimasaurus, which was meant to be the mascot of a canceled toy line from 1998 called Jurassic Park Chaos Effect. He supposedly noticed strange things happening with the figure, and posted it on Reddit and claimed that agents of Black Mercury knocked on his door a few days later, confiscating the item due to its potential danger. For those who are interested in reading, the thread is called, "I bought an unreleased toy on eBay." A few days after my son had discovered those old toys in the attic, I asked my wife to pick up the morning paper by the driveway. When she handed it to me, the headline gave me an uneasy feeling. "Mysterious blue fluid kills 4 people."